I'd like to welcome Nora Bergman and Miranda McCroskey to our call today. Nora is a certified Atticus practice advisor and has been with Atticus since 2006. As a licensed attorney since 1992, Nora brings a deep understanding of the practice and business of law to her work with lawyers, law firms, and bar associations. She has practiced as an employment law attorney and certified mediator and has served as an adjunct professor at both Stetson University College of Law and the University of South Florida. Nora is a graduate of Villanova University's Lean Six Sigma program and teaches a course on Lean for Lawyers at Solo Practice University. She has recently finished writing her first book, 50 Lessons for Lawyers, Earn More, Stress Less, Be Awesome, which will be available on Amazon.com this summer. Miranda McCroskey is a 20-year criminal defense attorney in Orange County, California. She is currently a partner in the full-service international law firm Wilson, Kiajon, Braundorf, chairing their criminal defense department. Miranda is also the host and founder of the two successful podcasts and blogs, Lawpreneur Radio and The Inspired Lawyer. Lawpreneur Radio showcases entrepreneurial attorneys and the vendors that support them. To hear the podcast and read the blog, go to lawpreneurradio.com. At The Inspired Lawyer, through speaking and coaching, podcasting, and blogging, Miranda assists attorneys enhance the inspiration in their lives by igniting their passion, expanding their impact, and leading them on an inspiration inquiry. Her weekly podcast is launching on May 26th at www.theinspiredlawyer.com. So Nora, I've finished our introductions, and I'll turn the call over to you.
Thank you, Susan, and welcome everyone. Both Miranda and I are excited to be here with you this afternoon and have a lot of information to share. I just want to underscore something that Susan had said. We're going to be pausing throughout the webinar to answer questions that you might have. Susan is going to be watching that question box, so should you have questions about anything that we're talking about, please let us know via the question box. We'll also hopefully have some time at the end of the webinar to answer any other questions that you might have. I'm going to suggest or ask everyone if you'd like to connect with either Miranda or me, that we connect on LinkedIn. We're going to be talking with you about the incredibly valuable resource that LinkedIn is with respect to social media, especially for lawyers. So I want all of my clients on LinkedIn with a really robust, powerful profile there. So we want to use that option of connecting on LinkedIn to encourage all of you folks, if you're not already there, to join us on LinkedIn. And before I get started, I want to again thank Miranda for co-hosting with me this afternoon. If you noticed in the email that Atticus sent out about this webinar, I asked folks to share their social media success stories with me. And I got an email from Miranda, and she told me about her podcasts and how the podcasts have helped her really promote her law practice, promote herself as a lawyer, raise her visibility, and all kinds of other wonderful things that have come out of the work that she took the initiative to do around blogging and podcasting, and I know she's going to talk with you about that a little bit more herself. Miranda, let me welcome you. Before we get started, anything that you would like to say at the top of the webinar?
Nope, just welcome to everybody, and I'm excited to be part of the conversation.
Okay, terrific. So, in this webinar, we're going to focus on 4 major topics. Why you need to be part of the social media conversation if you're not now, what legal networks are most important for lawyers and how to really leverage them, how to make time for all this stuff. You know, I know that when I work with my clients, finding enough time to do the things that they want to do, both working on their practice and in their practice, can be a challenge. So we want to give you some tips and strategies, and if you're an Atticus grad, they're not going to be new to you, but we want to make sure that you have the right tools so that you can actually make time to do the work that you want to do in social media. And then finally, when to utilize marketing assistance to help you in your social media efforts and how to utilize them. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to use a marketing assistant to really help you stay on top of social media. So with that, we're going to start with point number 1, and that is why you need to be part of the social media conversation in the first place. I mean, why should you even bother with all this stuff? So I want to tell a little story about my past that takes us back to February 9th, 1964. I don't know whether if any of you folks know what date that signifies, but it was the first time that the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. So what does this have to do with our topic today? Well, I'm going to get there. So in 1964, the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time. I was 4 years old at the time and glued to my TV set. Some of you folks that know me know that before I went to law school, I was a musician. I played the guitar and sang. And the Beatles were one of the most instrumental, you should pardon the pun, reasons for me wanting to play the guitar. So that night, I fell in love with the Beatles. And the very next day, my dad went out and bought me this album, Meet the Beatles, which actually I still have my original album. And in 1964, my dad went to a record store where we lived in Fort Lauderdale to buy me the album. And he brought it home, and I played it on our record player that was actually attached to our TV set. I don't know whether you remember those console things where you had the record player and the TV all together. Because back in 1964, that's the way we consumed music. That's the way we purchased music. We had to go to a record store, had to buy an album, to bring the album home, and we listened to it in our house or in somebody else's house. But that was your only option for listening to music. Sometime later, this crazy thing called digital music was introduced. And what you're looking at there is one of the first digital music players that was out there in 1998. So with the advent of digital music in 1998, everything changed about how we as a society consume our music and listen to music. You didn't have to go to a record store anymore to buy a record and bring it home and play it on your record player. You could download music. You could listen to it on this little gadget that you could take with you anywhere. And then in 2001, Apple introduced this thing called the iPod. And their slogan for the iPod was 1,000 songs in your pocket. And with the advent of the iPod and iTunes, the music industry changed again. And it changed from being able to take your music with you to being able to download music to being able to download a single song. You didn't have to buy an album anymore. You could go to iTunes and you could just buy the songs that you liked from the artists that you were interested in. So in 2016, the music industry is completely different than it was in 1964. The model has changed. The model has changed, and as a result of the model changing, a number of record companies and music companies went out of business because they didn't pay attention to what was happening. They didn't pay attention to the way people were consuming information, what was driving them to buy music, how they were buying music, how they were consuming music. So I tell this story because, to me, it is analogous to the dangers that we face as lawyers in staying current with the way our clients and potential clients find their lawyers and search for lawyers and work with lawyers. And social media and leveraging it to really market your firm effectively is what you need to be doing now and into the future to be really successful. I talk to lawyers from time to time who kind of brag to me about the fact that they're a dinosaur, that maybe they don't use case management software, or they don't really feel comfortable with a computer, or they certainly are not going to be on Facebook or Twitter. Our message to you today is don't be a dinosaur. We know what happened to dinosaurs, and we don't want to see that happen to you, right? So I'm hoping that after the end of our time together today, you'll have maybe a different perspective, a fresher perspective, maybe a renewed perspective about why social media is important to you and your firm, but don't be a dinosaur. I'm going to hand it over to Miranda to talk with you about a really important aspect of why social media is so important to your practice and marketing your practice. Are you there, Miranda?
Sorry, I had already started talking with my phone muted.
I hate it when that happens.
I know. I'm going to talk about social proof, and I could talk about this all day, but I'll keep it to a couple of minutes and just hit the high points. But it really is a really important concept. As this slide says, over 70% of Americans say they look at product reviews before making a purchase. I know that's true for me. When I go to Amazon to buy my kids' shoes or my next book, I do read the reviews. And if nobody's reviewed it, it does have an impact on me. It says that nearly 63% of consumers indicate they're more likely to purchase from a site that has ratings or reviews, just to my point. What I want to say about social proof is that our potential clients need to see us and feel comfortable with us to do business with us. And in order for that to happen, we have to have our websites and our social media platforms filled up and reflecting us, our business, our personality. I have a great story from a National Geographic episode of Brain Games. It's a show that's out there. I think it's on Netflix now. And if you go to Brain Games and look up their social proof episode, you'll see a story. And this slide shows people in a line. It's an image from the story.
Melissa, Miranda, can I interrupt you for one second? Before you tell this story, which is awesome, can you give us, what is your definition of social proof? You know, there might be some folks on the call that aren't familiar with that term. So what do you mean when you say social proof?
Social proof is where it's what you get when you look at, when you have a culmination of testimonials, recommendations, endorsements, where you have proof that people have bought your product, used your service, and are saying positive things about you. It's no longer meaningful the same way it was for me to say, I'm a 20-year attorney, I went to Loyola Law School, et cetera, et cetera. What's important is my client saying that I've done good for them. That's social proof. Clear?
Okay, yes, thank you.
Okay. So the episode in Brain Games, the story I'm going to tell, illustrates what I'm about to describe. And basically the idea is that we as a people, as a society, are leaders rather than followers. And that goes to the prospect of social proof, because we don't want to be the first person to try out someone. We don't want to be the first person to try out a certain attorney. We want to know that other people have done it and the proof is there. So in the episode, they had an individual, a plant, stand in front of a little velvet rope leading nowhere, stand behind the velvet rope leading nowhere in Las Vegas on a busy street on the Strip, and he just stood there. The first bunch of people passed him without stopping, but eventually someone stopped and said, why are you standing here? What are you waiting for? He goes, I don't know. I'm in Vegas and something good's going to happen. So they said, okay. So they stood behind him. Now we have one person went to a group, and now the group of people started to attracting people. So as the people passed on, and the way they filmed it was, you know, one of those fast frame things, so you could see a lot of people passing, and eventually people did join the line. Ultimately, a large line of people formed, and they all were waiting for nothing. Nobody knew what they were waiting for. And soon the young man who was a plant, he opened the rope and he stepped through and marched on, and people followed him. It's the perfect example of people following, and you want them to be following you. You want to create the social proof. A little more to say about that is our philosophy as a society, maybe not yours and mine, but as a society, again, we're followers first. We lead only when we have to. A group can't be wrong. There's safety in a tribe, and perception is reality. And so what you want to do if you're going to follow those ideas is you want to give them someone to follow. That would be you. Prove you have clients. Create social proof. You want to sell your audience to your audience. So I want a large group of people to know I'm the best criminal defense attorney ever. I want a large group of people on my website saying so. And then put your suit on. And by suit, that's an acronym. The media is your suit. The acronym stands for S, social proof. U, unquestionably. I, ignites. T, trust. So an example of your suit would be Google+, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. These are your presence on the internet, and you don't want to leave them on, you don't want to not fully fill them out and use them as you can. That creates your social proof. Testimonials, local media, commercial media, anything you can get creates social proof. Anything you want to add to that?
I just want to underscore, you mentioned Google+, Miranda, and that is one network that we're not going to be talking about today, but that would be worthy of its own webinar, perhaps. Some folks are incredibly involved in Google+ and see the value of it, and others don't. I'm just curious, in your interaction with the lawyers that you work with, are many of them using Google+ as a social network?
Good question, and not to my knowledge. In fact, I'm new to Google+ myself. I use the ones that we're going to talk about on this website fully. But like you said, Google+ is a webinar unto itself, and it's a webinar I need to see because I need to know more about Google+ myself.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think the idea of social proof and how it interplays with social media is so interesting. And one of the reasons that you're here with me today was that I was so blown away by your success story around podcasting. So if you'd share that with everybody and give us your thoughts on why that can be such a great entree into these other social networks.
Yeah, absolutely. I started my podcast, my first podcast, Lawpreneur Radio, 2 years ago. And what I did is I interviewed entrepreneurial attorneys, and I talked to them about how they had the courage and inspiration to either leave big law and go on their own, or leave government law and go on their own. And I was one of those people. And so in my conversations with them, I kind of just replayed the conversation I had had 10 years earlier when I left a firm to go on my own. And I asked people for their best tips and resources. When I would invite attorneys on, they really did not see the value. People would come on the interview because I asked them, but they didn't know how to repurpose it in their social networks. So I do know that that's a missing out there in the conversation. The power of podcasting is not well understood, especially in our industry. But how I see it as powerful is once you do put on your quote-unquote suit, as I just described, your social media, et cetera, and building your trust out there, creating social proof, then to be a guest on a podcast or have your own podcast is one more piece of content to put in these social media channels. You've got to have something to say. So, for instance, every podcast I do, I put that individual interview out on Facebook, LinkedIn. I tweet it. It gets retweeted. The guest on the podcast, if they're savvy, they know what they're doing and they retweet it. And that one piece of content can go many places. They can embed it in their website. I have it on my website. It's just all about having fresh content. So that's one of the good reasons to be a guest on someone's podcast. And of course, inside of the content, you want it to be quality. You want to say things about yourself and your business that you want the world to know about you. And again, it's more social proof to say that you were invited to be on the podcast and you actually did it is important. Switching gears, that was about being an interviewee. As someone who has a podcast, and I have just starting the second one, as I said in my intro, I'm launching late May, The Inspired Lawyer, and I'm interviewing inspirational lawyers, people that will inspire lawyers who might be stuck and disconnected, people that are inspirational lawyers, even inside of law or outside of law. And the value for me as a podcaster is it definitely grows my network. It's sharing, not advertising. It helps them get to know, like, and trust me because they get to know who I am because I show up in every interview and my personality and ethics and values show up as well. It showcases our expertise. If I talk about areas of law in a podcast, I definitely showcase that. As I said, it reveals the true me and allows me to speak with my own voice, fosters engagement. It helps me help people. The information I'm sharing with people and the people I'm reaching out to interview are quality people, and the information they're sharing are little nuggets of information. And I turn my car into a, what do I call it, an automobile academy. I'm always listening to someone else's podcast when I'm driving and learning, and that's what I want to provide for people too.
Hey, can I ask you a question about podcasting as well? When you talk about listening to podcasts, what are the best platforms for people to find a podcast like yours or other legal podcasts to listen to?
iTunes is a really simple one. You can just do a search for lawyer or your specific niche of law or coaching or lawyer coaching. You know, you can search anything on iTunes, and then just a Google search will get you there too, most likely.
Okay.
I was going to share about my personal benefits I've had from podcasting. I was kind of being broad a minute ago, but how I ended up, for instance, on this webinar today. I want to share that when I started the podcast, I was a solo practice person. I'd been on my own for 12 years, and I just knew there was something more to be doing with my life than basically struggling through my days as a sole practice attorney. And so I started Lawpreneur Radio for all the reasons I described to you, but also to give me something to say and to have these amazing conversations. That was really the best part of it for me, was communicating with people who'd done well. And out of that, I interviewed a partner in the firm where I'm currently a partner. And out of that interview, I got the partnership position because he said, you're entrepreneurial, you're well-connected, you're expansive, you know, we want you here. So that was really the best result. I never thought starting a podcast would have me land a partnership position, but it did. And then so many other tangential benefits. Just for instance, I sent Nora my story, and I'm having the honor to talk to the rest of you right now today. So I've had lots of benefits from podcast.
Awesome. Any last thoughts you want to leave folks with? If they're thinking right now, wow, I'd like to get into podcasting, or I'd like to dip my toe in the water, what's a step that they could take in that direction, Miranda?
Yeah, two. One, starting a podcast for fun probably isn't the best route because it's not cheap. It takes a lot of time. It takes a little bit of seed capital to get started. I think what my biggest piece of advice is for everyone listening and for myself as well, especially with my new podcast, is podcasting is a marketing tool. Make sure you're clear what you're marketing. So with The Inspired Lawyer, I'm selling motivational speaking and coaching. I'm also having people get to know me as a criminal defense attorney. Be clear what it is you want to share, and be clear who we call it your avatar, but who is the person who's going to listen to your podcast? Who are you speaking to when you podcast to them? So there's that. And then a pragmatic piece of advice is if you go to my website, lawpreneurradio.com, you'll see a box that talks about Podcasters Paradise. Podcasters Paradise is a group. It's a membership site. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a membership site that educates you on how to create, grow, monetize, expand your podcast, and it's the best resource I've found in regard to that. It's not my resource. It's John Lee Dumas's, who's a big podcaster. But you can access it through my website.
Thank you. And I've got one more question. This is actually coming in from the audience. A question about repurposing. I know we're going to talk about this later in the webinar, but we have a question right now about what are some of the best ways to repurpose your podcast content?
So basically what I said, and what I'm actually going to say again. So I take my episode, and this applies to whether you're an interviewee or you're the owner of the podcast or the podcaster. I take my episode, I take the link, it's embedded in my, podcasts are hosted by a variety of hosting sources. There's Blueberry, there's Libsyn, there's others. I use Libsyn. So once my audio is put on Libsyn, I put the link on my website. Then I send the link for my website, which is usually a dedicated page to that interviewee and has the audio embedded in it. I send that link everywhere. So that's the key part. You don't want to send them to iTunes if you have something on your website you want them to see. You want to send them to your website. So I put it, when I say everywhere, I mean LinkedIn. I make a LinkedIn post out of it. I put it on my Facebook page, both my personal and my Lawpreneur Radio page, and now my Inspired Lawyer page. I put it in other channels. Twitter, I tweet it. The guest will retweet it. Other people will retweet it. especially if it's a high-profile guest. That's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. What else do I do? I can repurpose. There's no reason I only can do all of that when the first time it comes out. I'm always able to direct people back to their pages, and so are the people with the interview. So it's an they call it evergreen. It's evergreen marketing. It's evergreen media. There's no end to it. It's forever marketing. As opposed to radio, where you're showed once and gone. With a podcast, you are always available to use that audio for your benefit.
Okay. Awesome.
Those are my best channels.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to leave podcasting and we're going to move on to the next social media platform that we want to talk about, which is Avvo. For most lawyers in America, whether you know it or not, you have a profile on Avvo. I'm in Florida, and I know that the Florida Bar some time ago sold the membership list to Avvo. So there are a lot of lawyers that don't even realize that you have a profile on Avvo. Avvo is a legal rating service. They're just now beginning to almost be a legal referral service, if you will. According to its site, which I just checked a couple days ago, they say they have 8 million prospective clients a month that visit the site. So Miranda was talking about social proof, and I just want to tell a short story of the topic of social proof from my perspective. Several years ago, I was asked for a referral to a personal injury lawyer here in Florida on the other side of the state, and I knew someone, and I made that referral, and the attorney's name that I gave is someone that I have known for over 15 years, a tremendous attorney, very, very successful trial attorney, great verdicts, and a wonderful person, a brilliant person, bright, good person, fantastic lawyer. So after I gave that referral, I Googled the name, and I went to Avvo. Was the first thing that actually popped up under his name. And when I went to his Avvo profile, he had a 6.3 Avvo rating, which isn't horrible, but it isn't fantastic either. And right there on his Avvo profile were 3 other lawyers in his geographic area that had ratings of 10s with 5-star reviews from their clients. And that caused me to question what I knew personally about my friend. So the next day, I wrote a blog post about why you need to have a 10 on Avvo. Because if that could affect me to kind of question my friend, just imagine how someone coming to an Avvo profile that maybe isn't even claimed after someone gives you a wonderful referral might affect that potential client. So we don't want that to happen to you. So we're just going to give you, for each one of these different platforms, just some tips to get you started. If you have not claimed your profile on Avvo, do so. Go to avvo.com, search for your name, claim your profile, set up your profile, complete it. Avvo actually gives you a list right down the side of your profile of all the things that you can put on it, make it as complete as possible. The more complete your profile is, the higher your Avvo rating, generally speaking. Do seek endorsements and reviews. I want to say just a couple things about this, and I want to get Miranda's feedback on that as well. Avvo provides the opportunity for other lawyers to give you what they call endorsements, and for you to provide endorsements to other lawyers. Endorsements from other lawyers that are genuine endorsements of your work boost your Avvo rating. Reviews from happy clients also boost your Avvo rating. Now in Florida, I'm just going to speak for Florida, it is not permissible for Florida lawyers to solicit a testimonial, i.e. a positive review. So while I suggest that you seek reviews from your clients, you can't ask them to write a positive review of you, at least in Florida. But you can ask for a review. And we had a question about how to ask for reviews. I just want to address it briefly. I suggest to my clients that either during representation or at the close of representation, when they know they have a very satisfied client, to invite them to write a review on Avvo. And usually I suggest that the invitation be done via email, not asking for a positive review, just asking for them to come and review their Avo profile with a link directly to it, so that person just has to click on the link and go right to your profile and write a review for you. Miranda, do you have any other thoughts or additional thoughts on the concept of endorsements and reviews on Avo?
No, just they're more social proof. Always a good thing.
More social, okay.
Oh, wait, one more thing. You can take the reviews that are on Avo and you can have your web guy or yourself put them on your website as well. So then you're double purposing those.
Oh, that's a great idea. That is a great idea.
Thank you.
The other thing that Avo gives you the opportunity to do is to write something they call a legal guide. Again, with the idea of repurposing. If you write articles, or if you're a blogger, or if you've even written a memo or a brief that you think is could be turned into some type of an article, you can take what you've already written and turn it into a legal guide on Avo very easily. They have a formatted template that you can choose, and you can just plug your content that you've already written into Avo as a legal guide, again, to boost your rating on Avo. And then finally, know how to respond to criticism. Ideally, we want to see 5-star ratings for you, but from time to time, you're going to get perhaps a less than a 5-star rating. Avo itself does pretty regular webinars on how to respond to criticism on their site and other sites as well. The one thing that I would say about it is that if you do receive a bad review on Avo, don't let it just sit there. Within the rules of professional responsibility for your state, respond to that criticism. Even if it's just, I would be happy to speak with you about the concerns that you raise here. You don't want to divulge any confidential information or privileged information, but don't let bad reviews just sit on your Avo review.
And I have one last point to make about.
Perfect.
Yeah, I have one last point about Avo. In regard to the badge, Avo offers you the opportunity to put a badge on your website, an Avo badge, talking about your rating, and sometimes it says excellent, sometimes it says 10, whatever it is. If you do that and someone clicks on it, the way the coding is, it sends you to your page in Avo, but if you look, and I'm talking about a free Avo listing, not the pro at this point. If you look at your listing, you'll see that your competitors are also being advertised on that page. So I'm going to repeat that. If you click on, if you use the coding that they provide you and you put your Avo badge on your website, when someone clicks on that, they will get to look at a number of your competitors as well. So there is a solution to that, to have your web guy do a PDF of the badge and put it there, and then the link behind it would take the clicker to the Avo, your personalized Avo page that doesn't have any advertisement on it. So I think that's a really good tip.
That is a fantastic tip, and I didn't know that. That's very sneaky. Avo's very sneaky.
Yeah.
So those are the top things we want you to know about Avo. We're going to move on to the next network, the ones that you need to be really participating in. And I would put Avo and LinkedIn really at the top of the list. If you do nothing else, make sure that you have a robust profile on both Avo and LinkedIn. They're the most powerful networks for you as a lawyer, and that's my opinion. So with respect to LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you create, complete, and update your profile. That means no ghost images, folks. You know, when you go to your profile, if you don't have a photograph there and you look at your profile, you simply don't see a photo. You see the text in your headline and other information. However, if someone searches for you and you don't have a photograph, you show up in search results with that nasty little ghost image. So do yourself a favor and get a nice professional photo taken and make sure that you use a consistent photo on all your social media. Your profile in Avo should really be conversational, not written like a resume, writing in the first person. Again, this is a way for you to actually create relationships, just like you create relationships face-to-face. LinkedIn gives the opportunity to create relationships online and then perhaps turn those online relationships into real face-to-face relationships. So make your profile conversational. you have something right below your name in LinkedIn called your headline. There are actually 120 characters available to you in your headline. So make the most of those 120 characters. Don't just say that you are an attorney with the name of your law firm. Let folks know your practice area. Let folks know any particular awards or distinctions that you might have. Use those 120 characters. I recommend that you write out your headline in MS Word. MS Word allows you to check the number of characters that you're using and spell check it and make sure it's exactly the way you want to see it before you actually put it on LinkedIn. But don't let that real estate go unused or underused. You want to make sure that you're managing recommendations and endorsements on LinkedIn so that folks are seeing what you want them to see. You have a lot of ability in LinkedIn to customize your profile so that the portions of it are showing that you want folks to see. LinkedIn also offers something called Pulse. It's a news aggregator. You can customize Pulse so that you are receiving information about those things that are most valuable to you and perhaps pertinent to your network. If you are, for example, a construction law attorney, you can go to Pulse and you can follow information about construction law. Pulse will send you articles and news updates about what's happening in construction law. You can turn around and simply share those updates with your network, again, in a way to build your credibility, establish your expertise in a particular field, whatever it might be. And then finally, we say join and participate in the right groups. And I say the right groups because it's very tempting on LinkedIn to perhaps participate in a lot of groups or join a lot of groups and then not really participate at all. So be careful of the groups that you join. Make sure that they're ones that are interesting to you and that put you perhaps in connection with great potential clients. The value to me for LinkedIn for lawyers is that it really allows you to interact with potential clients in a way that a lot of other social networks don't. Some of your best clients are already on LinkedIn, so utilize that. Miranda, anything that you want to add with respect to LinkedIn?
I'm looking at my profile right now to see if I get sparked. I would definitely repeat what Nora said about using your headline, make it really pop. I have little stars in mine. Your summary should also pop as well. You should use all caps when you can. You should do bullet points. Make it something that's readable where they can find you. And keep in mind that people can search LinkedIn, and so you want some search terms to be there. So criminal defense is a big thing for me, and inspired is a big thing for me, so I make sure I have those words. When you fill out your experience sections, make them good, make them meaty as well. You might consider the bullet points, the all caps here and there to have things stand out. All the way down into your volunteer experience. I had some just one-liners there, and then I was coached to really flesh them out. Those are my big things about, oh, one more thing. My recommendations all ended up buried at the very bottom of my profile because they got aged a little bit. I hadn't asked for anything in a while, and so my most recent recommendation is where it should be under that space, under experience, under the specific space, but most of my recommendations are buried down below. So keep in mind to regularly request the recommendations and endorsements so that they show up where we'd like them to, above the fold.
Awesome. Those are all great recommendations. Thank you. Before we leave LinkedIn, I actually was contacted just a couple of days ago by a participant who I believe is on the line. His name is Jeff Vinzani, and Jeff has a LinkedIn success story to tell. So Susan, can you unmute Jeff so that he can speak to us?
Yes, Jeff's unmuted now.
Jeff,
okay,
welcome.
I'm here.
Welcome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story. And if you can share it with everyone to inspire them to the kind of things that can be accomplished when you really utilize LinkedIn.
Sure. So I'm an attorney in Charleston, South Carolina, and I've been on LinkedIn since like 2007. And early on, I found the value of groups and forming your own groups. And one of the ones I looked for was the International Council of Shopping Centers, which believe it or not, in 2007 it didn't exist, so I formed it, and then later the ICSC came to me and we kind of joined forces to shepherd that group along, and it now has 52,000 members, and I'm still the owner of the group, but ICSC and I work together on that. So I've got the ability to send messages, actual announcements and things like that if I want to, but obviously we work together on that. The second one I wanted to tell is I formed a smaller group just for lawyers, and I went to a trade conference, and before I left I just offered to host a luncheon of people, and about 25 people showed up. We all chipped in, and then at that luncheon I met an attorney out of Texas who ended up becoming a friend and also a good referral source. And one bank that he sent to me sends me all the work in the state of my home state, and 1 year, year or two ago, it generated over $300,000 in business to my firm. So those are just some success stories that
that's amazing.
Anyway. Yep.
Jeff, thank you. So
Sure.
We sit here and say these things, but I thank you so much for sharing that, because when we talk about the value in participating in these networks, especially LinkedIn, and when I say, oh, LinkedIn can put you in touch with perhaps some of your best potential clients so that you can interact with them, I think Jeff's story underscores it all. And he's one of several people over the years who told me they've gotten great A clients from LinkedIn. So LinkedIn and Facebook, and now the next social network that I think you need to consider is Facebook for your business. I'm going to say just a few things, and then Miranda, I'd love your feedback on Facebook as well. When you're creating your Facebook page for your firm, you want to make sure that you have branded it so it is clear that it is your firm with information about your firm, using your logo, using your photos, really tailoring it so that folks know that it is your firm. And when I say know your audience, we talk about know your audience, that simply means the voice and the way you speak on your Facebook page should be tailored to your practice area. You know, a family law firm might have a different tone of voice on Facebook than a commercial litigation firm. So be aware of the people that you want to attract to your Facebook page. Share the right mix. Don't make your Facebook page all about firm updates and what the firm is doing. Share legal updates. Share and comment on legal commentary. Make it a mix of things. The other great thing that you can do with Facebook is to use their events section to promote your own law firm seminars and even webinars and other kinds of things. Facebook also offers some very targeted advertising that some of my clients are having real success with. It's not terribly expensive. You can target it geographically to your particular area. You can there's a variety of different ways that you can target advertising in Facebook in a very cost-effective way. Miranda, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I would argue that Facebook advertising is definitely the way to go, or a way to go, just because you can get your targets so specific and because it's cost affordable. Also, it's another tool for gathering your credibility. It's another part of the suit, as I said earlier, for social proof. People are going to be, it takes 30 seconds to a minute for them to pop on your Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, and just see who you are out there. And they're going to be doing it, the young people, and they're going to be doing it in their cars and on their phones and all of that. Lastly, something else about Facebook, credibility. Oh, it's another channel. It's just another channel for you to push your content.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and you know, you have to understand that at Atticus we talk a lot about referral marketing, and the fact that your best clients are going to come to you for the most part from personal referrals. There is the opportunity to pick up some great clients directly from social media, but primarily they're going to come to you from personal referrals. But what happens now, of course, is that when you get that personal referral from somebody, the first thing that person does, that potential client, is Google your name. So all of these things, all of the channels, as Miranda said, all of the social proof that these networks contribute to allow you to have a profile or presence online that supports everything that your referral source has told that potential client about you. You don't want it to undermine anything that they might already think or know about you. They want to know, like, and trust you because your referral source has already imbued them with that. So the last network we're going to talk about this afternoon is Twitter. I know some of you folks are probably already on Twitter, either professionally or even personally, but Twitter is an excellent way to learn and listen to what's important to your clients, what's important to your network, what's important to your potential clients, so that you can stay ahead of the curve in terms of positioning yourself as an expert in your particular area of practice. Twitter is also a great way to know what your competition is doing. What are other lawyers and law firms in your practice area doing out there? What's important to them? How are they interacting with their potential clients? Just like I said, to mix up content on Facebook, with respect to Twitter, you want to, if you're using Twitter for business, you want to make the majority of your tweets relevant for your practice area, tweeting relevant information, and adding value by commenting on the tweets that you send out. If you're retweeting something, say something about it. Don't just retweet something without a comment. Although you can do that some of the time, you want to make sure that some of the time you're also adding comments, that you're using Twitter to repurpose your content, as Miranda said, and push people back to your website if there's something on your website that you want to see, or you want folks to see. Thoughts on Twitter, Miranda?
Well, just that there is a strategy. When I first started Twitter, I just followed anybody and hoped people would follow me, and it was like volume. I just wanted following. I was looking to create a platform. But there is a strategy when you're on Twitter, and one of the strategies I use is you want to choose the best of the best. You want to make a list of the 10 to 20 most successful people within your same space, and those people would have solid followings, ideally, and then the majority of those followers are going to be the most active people on their email list, and that's going to account for most of their social shares. So point is, if you want your tweet to be retweeted and get out there because you want it seen by the most eyes and ultimately have those eyes go back to your website, you want to pick people who do that. You want to pick people who do social share. So when you're picking the people to follow, choose the best of the best and make sure that they're active people and have a lot of followers as well, because that will serve you. Basically, there's a lot of ways to figure out the strategy, but just keep in mind there is one. And if you Google it and do a little research, you'll find out that it's more than just willy-nilly pick whoever shows up.
I agree 1,000%. And one other thing that I would add to that is don't be tempted to buy followers on Twitter, which is something that you can do. Let your Twitter profile and your followers grow organically as a result of the way you show up there. It's going to create a much more powerful network, a more meaningful network for you, even if it takes a long time. I mean, I've been on Twitter for over, oh my gosh, probably 6 or 7 years, since 2009 or 10. It's taken me a while to build my followers on Twitter, but that's okay. There is value in quality over quantity, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and don't be discouraged to start today. Don't think, oh, it's too late. Other people have tens of thousands of followers and I have one. Because time is your friend, and just as Nora just described, she's been on for years and she's organically grown an authentic following, which is great. Then when you speak to them, you know they want to hear it. At least for me, that gives me a lot of confidence in posting, tweeting, whatever. I think, well, they joined me on their own volition and they're staying on their own volition, so right. I guess they want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
so bottom line, let time be your friend.
Sorry. I like that. Yeah, and I'm going to underscore, too, what Miranda just said. If you're not out there and you want to get out there, don't be discouraged. Just get out there and start doing it. You will be amazed. I think on some levels you'll be amazed at how quickly some of your networks can grow. Okay, so we've talked about all this stuff. We've given you lots of to-dos. How are you going to make time for all of this? Well, just couple strategies here, and again, ask for Miranda's input on this as well. Have a plan. Know what you want to do. We've shared with you what we think are the networks that you should consider to be on and participate in, the most important being Avvo and LinkedIn. But you decide what works best for you. Create a social media plan for you. Block the time to do this work. If you want to blog or want to podcast, that's going to take a lot of time and a big investment of time for you. So block the time on your calendar and honor it. To participate in LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, not as big of a time commitment. You know, you can spend just a few minutes a day on LinkedIn. Once you have your profile up and running, you can give yourself little social media breaks during the day. That's what I encourage my clients to do. You want to break from your work? Then go share something on LinkedIn. Go check out one of your groups on LinkedIn and start a conversation there. That only takes a couple of minutes, but allows you to stay engaged. And that, I would say the same for both Twitter and Facebook with regard to that. And engage your team. If you have people on your team, perhaps younger people even, that are really involved and interested in social media, get their help. Have them be in charge of your Facebook page for you and making sure that it's up to date. And Miranda, you do blog and you do podcasts, so how do you manage your time? How do you make time for all the work that you do?
With help. My husband's the producer. Yeah, my husband's the producer of the podcast, and he does a lot of the behind-the-scenes things because I'm telling you, it takes time. I think he said it was taking him 10 to 12 hours a week but I was doing 4 interviews a week, which is hefty. I think 1 interview a week is fine. Some people do 1 a month. So it doesn't have to take 10 to 12 hours a week. But there are a lot of moving parts and pieces to a podcast. But I have a lot to say about repurposing and using an assistant. I think that's the next slide, though.
Take it away.
Oh, take it away? Great. So slide 8, use a marketing assistant. Create an editorial calendar. Now, the way I use an editorial calendar, and what it is basically calendaring your social media appropriately and when you're going to say it and how. What I do is I think, okay, a year is 12 months. A lot of these have seasonal anchors, right? So we've got New Year's and then Valentine's and then spring or Easter and then Mother's Day. I mean, I could probably get something for every month. So what I do is I would think of a blog post that would be seasonally anchored somehow, and that gives me, and I don't pre-write them necessarily, but that gives me 12 ideas, right, 1 a month. So if I do a number of things. Let's say I don't have a podcast, but nothing stops me from making an audio of my written blog post. So let's just use one example. I'm going to do a Happy New Year blog post, and I'm going to talk about drunk driving, okay? So after I write that, then I'm going to take my mic and my recorder, and I'm going to just do a little audio, and I'm going to embed that audio on my blog post. And on my website, McCroskeyLegal.com, I have some like that. I didn't do all of them, but nevertheless. So now I have an audio and a written for that 1 month. Then I send that out to Facebook, to Twitter, to LinkedIn, to Google+, and that sent it out 4 different places. So now it's repurposed and it sends them back to my website. Well, I do that times 12. So what is that, like 48 touches a year I've done just from doing 12 blog posts and the work associated with it. And if I did it twice a month, I'm upping that to, what, 96 touches. That's a lot. That's repurpose, 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 bullet point 4 on this slide. Bullet point 5 talks about using Hootsuite or Buffer to cascade the content. The day I write that blog and do that audio, if I choose to do that, I can put it on Hootsuite or Buffer, which exactly is what it says. That is a site that will send your content out to the stated channels, and I can have that all scheduled and not look back. And it'll drip out over the month if I want. It'll go out all at once. It'll go twice, whatever I say. And then popping back up to bullet point 2, using an assistant. Well, maybe the assistant wrote the initial post. Maybe I want my voice on audio, but I read the assistant's post after I approve it. Maybe the assistant plugs it into Hootsuite or Buffer to have it go out to all my channels. So I've hardly touched it at that point, and yet I'm getting a pretty nice impact for it. So that's how I do the timing, and that's how I use a marketing assistant.
I have nothing to add to that. I think you covered all of that really well. Especially the idea of having that editorial calendar. You know, when I mentioned the idea of blocking time. Knowing what you want to do and getting in a calendar is really, really valuable. I do have one other thing to add, and that would be, as you think about content, have a way to capture all of your ideas, whether you are blogging, whether you want to do a podcast, whether you get an idea for a Facebook post or a LinkedIn update. Use your phone, capture all of those ideas, dictate them into your notes or somewhere so that you have all of these ideas in one place. You're going to constantly be coming up with them. Don't lose those good thoughts that you might have when you're driving along in the car. We have we're right at the top of the hour, and I'm looking at questions, and we have several questions that I'd like to take a moment to address. Susan, is it okay if we go a little over? Do you want us to finish right at the top of the hour?
No, go ahead, Nora.
Okay. Bear with me one second. There's a question about, coming back to Avvo for a moment, a comment that Avvo you can request client reviews right through the Avvo website. I will tell you, I don't think I knew that. And there's a concern about, the confidentiality of your client's email being divulged to Avvo. I would not use that. I would not use Avvo as a way to ask for reviews from clients. I would instead either ask the client directly or, as I said, put your Avvo profile URL into an email that you can send to your client, again, consistent with your rules of professional responsibility in your state, and give them the link and let them come right to your Avvo page and review you there. Any thoughts on that, Miranda?
That's a new thought for me. I'm thinking of it. I happen to have Avvo up on my screen while you're talking, and I'm not signed in, so I'm looking at it just like anyone who pops there. And they have a lawyer directory. They have a bar across the top, and it says lawyer directory, and then it says review your lawyer, post a review of your attorney, write a review. So they can do it straight from that. So that's a good link, avvo.com/review-your-lawyer. And then I didn't know that straight from I could send them to my page and that they can review from my page. I only knew about the invitation. But you're right, that is an issue about giving out their email.
Yeah, I would ask them directly. And again, focus on those folks that you know are really happy and are ideally going to give you a great review. We have another question. Can the speaker say more about managing recommendations and endorsements on LinkedIn? Yes. And let me start with endorsements first. Endorsements are those, they're kind of like likes almost in a weird way. Someone can endorse you on LinkedIn for anything, even for areas of law that you don't practice. So I don't know why this happens, but it seems to happen frequently. They can create their own area and endorse you for it. Endorsements are a specific section of your LinkedIn profile. You can, when I say manage it, you can choose to show those endorsements, all of them, or you can take that section completely off of your LinkedIn profile and not show any endorsements. There was some clamor in Florida a couple of years ago about whether LinkedIn lawyers who showed endorsements were violating the Florida bar rules, because at the time endorsements were called expertise. And in Florida, you can't call yourself an expert unless you're board certified in a particular area of practice. So believe it or not, the Florida bar had a little conversation with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn changed those what used to be called areas of expertise to endorsements. So you can show all of them, and you can actually go into that endorsement section of your profile page, and you can choose to show only those endorsements that are relevant to your practice area. And you can also hide endorsements. If you were to get an endorsement from a lawyer in your community that you don't like or respect or has issues, you can hide that individual endorsement. So you can get really, really detailed in terms of the endorsements on LinkedIn. And Miranda kind of addressed the idea of managing recommendations. Make sure that you're asking for them so that you have fresh recommendations on your LinkedIn profile. And she's just reminded me that I need to do that too. And so that you have fresh content showing there.
Also on the endorsements, if you can have 99 plus, that's better. That's the highest you can get. And you don't have to use every available box. Like, I think maybe there's 50 or 100 available to you, the skills available. You don't have to fill them all up. I looked at mine with a critical eye the other day, and I saw I have 99 plus in criminal defense, criminal law courts, but the rest of them are like 40s and 80s and 8 and like that. So I reorganized, took some of them out, only used the ones I actually cared about getting endorsements for. There is a way to be strategic about it.
Okay, that is great advice. Also staying with LinkedIn, question about what is best with regard to the number of connections on LinkedIn. Is it best to limit and target your connections or have the largest possible number of connections that you can have? I have a couple thoughts on that, and then I'd love to hear Miranda's thoughts on that. I view LinkedIn connections as valuably as I view my personal connections. And if someone asks to connect with me and they are relevant to the work that I do, or maybe they're connected to me, we're connected via a mutual connection, even though I don't know that person, most of the time I'm going to say yes. I think that your LinkedIn network should be as large and robust as it can be, but again, in an organic way so that you're connected with people that are valuable to you. I have no trouble saying no to and deleting requests from, people that run companies that have absolutely nothing to do with what I do, or sometimes from people in other parts of the world whose profile does not appear in English. So while on the one hand I think your network should be large, don't be afraid to say no to people that send you requests.
I would agree with all of that. I have no trouble saying no in similar circumstances. I also spend a little time each day, and when I get requests, I will review them, and if it's somebody that's a match for me, I'll give them a personal response back, and I will ask, how can I be of service, and maybe I'll send them a link to my website or my podcast, or ask them to be interviewee on my podcast, something like that. I try not to, when the request to be my friend or whatever on LinkedIn pops up, I don't want to let that go. I at least give it my attention for a second.
Absolutely. Let's see here. We have a question about paying for the AVO Pro designation. And I think I heard you say, Miranda, that you are AVO Pro?
I am.
Okay.
I am. Yeah, the cost that I pay is not so much. I think it's $100 a month, maybe. I do that so I'll be up in the rankings, and not up in the rankings, so I'll show up on that page early on. And then there's some other benefits that I am not prepared to articulate right now, but I just can't think what they are. But there was enough to sell me on the idea at the time. So
okay. Well, this is a question that's actually come up for some of my clients, and so I am not a pro on AVO because I don't actually practice, but I have a presence there. But when you pay for AVO Pro, it allows you to customize your profile a little bit. It allows you to, the last time I checked anyway, because they're always changing these things, it allows you, for example, to showcase 2 or 3 of your best client reviews right at the top of your profile. They'll take a little excerpt from them. The other thing that AVO Pro will do for you is to eliminate ads from other lawyers from appearing on your profile. So if you're on AVO and you're not paying for AVO Pro, you just have a free profile there. When someone comes to your profile, just like the story I told of my friend who had a 6.3, and I saw lawyers in his same practice area with 10s going down the side of his page. That's one of the things that AVO Pro will do for you. Now, I have another friend who has a 10 on AVO, and he has a 20 or 30 5-star reviews from clients. I mean, just amazing profile. And for some time, he was paying for AVO Pro to eliminate, the lawyer ads on his site, on his profile on AVO. And then he just made the decision that, you know what, I have 35-star reviews, so if other lawyers who have 10 show up on my page, fine. If a client sees my profile and wants to go use another lawyer, then that's fine. I'm not the right lawyer for them. So that's a personal decision that I think every lawyer needs to make. I also got a comment that hashtags on Twitter are important. That's absolutely right, and you can use hashtags on Facebook. You can use hashtags on LinkedIn now, I think. Can't you? I think you can use hashtags on LinkedIn as well. Then I have one other question that I want to address. Facebook and Avvo seem to be aimed more at retail clients for solo and small firms. What do you suggest for more sophisticated business firms, business to business? Well, first of all, I don't know that I necessarily agree that Facebook and Avvo are aimed more at retail clients, and here's why. I have worked with clients who are, in commercial litigation firms, bankruptcy lawyers, commercial bankruptcy lawyers, business lawyers, that just like Jeff told his story about the client that he got from LinkedIn, have gotten and been connected with A clients in their practice area from Avvo. Can't speak to Facebook on that. But with respect to business connections, LinkedIn is the place to be from my perspective, without a doubt.
Yeah, mine too.
And you can have your personal profile there, and you can also create a page for your law firm on LinkedIn as well. So it gives you tremendous flexibility in boosting your online profile and the social proof, as Miranda said, for you and your firm.
I agree.
Susan, are there any other questions that you're seeing that we've missed or haven't addressed that we need to address?
No, Nora, I don't think so, and we're about 10 minutes over, so.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Miranda, for being here and your willingness to participate in this webinar. You and I have never actually met. We've spoken on the phone a few times, and your input here has been really, really valuable for me. I mean, I've learned from you, so I thank you for being here. Thank everyone that's participated in the webinar and been with us today. Susan, I'm going to hand it back over to you to close us out this afternoon.
All right, thank you. Thank you again, Nora and Miranda, for this workshop, this webinar, a lot of great information. Again, we want to remind everyone on the call that we have 2 upcoming workshops. We have the Exit Strategies that's being held June 17th in Orlando, Florida. We also have the Double Your Revenue workshop, June 23rd in New York City. There are only 5 seats remaining in that workshop, and the cost for that is $995. Each one of these workshops does have a limited amount of seats available. That way you get more one-on-one time with the instructors. And if you want any further information on either of these, there's a contact there on the sheet. It's Denise at atticusonline.com. And our next Practice Development Series call will be on June the 9th, again at noon Eastern Time. So again, thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.